And we're live. Welcome to the Gordox Pub. New Year review.
Still working on the Mastiff. And this is still at page 8.
Yeah, because we just started page 8.
Yeah. So, got an email a couple nights ago from an editor. And you know that anthology that's supposed to come out in about 11 days? Not coming out in 11 days. I was like, you know, because this crap happens all the time. But the reason it's not coming out is because somebody suspected somebody else of having AI-generated content. And so they pulled their story. Now, the editor said that they had contacted the person who was being accused of using AI. And they said they ran it through like Grammarly or something, and maybe it, I don't know. But I use Grammarly. I don't use it for the generative stuff. I use it for the grammar stuff. And I've run my stuff through its AI detector. It's always like, yeah, it's written by a human because I'm always interested. Whoa. But so here I am and a bunch of other people, a bunch of other writers, and none of us are big writers, you know, looking for, you know, just publishing credit. And we're getting hung up because somebody decided to use AI and somebody else spotted it. And I think it's a good cautionary tale, if nothing else, that if you think people aren't able to recognize AI writing, they are. It doesn't work as well as real human beings. But
Well, to me, I'm wondering how they knew somebody else's story.
so we were given proofs, basically. They're like, you know, hey, go through. If you see any typos, let us know. And
Galleys.
yeah, there you go. And so somebody got to see somebody else's story. Plus, it's a shared universe, and some of them, I guess, were kind of working together. I don't know. I was not. I did my one off, and I'm happy. Like I said, it was a fun. Like up until this point, it was a fun experience. And really, it's out of all the experiences I've had as a writer, this isn't really. I mean, my feathers are not really, you know, bothered or anything or ruffled. I'm just like, all right, this is new. Like, I've never had a delay because of this kind of drama, but whatever. So, just thought I'd share. But I was also thinking about it, and I don't know. I mean, part of me is just I guess beaten down by the prospect. Like, AI is going to be here no matter what I do. And I guess the only way I console myself, I guess, with some of this, when it comes to people using it for creative endeavors instead of just being creative, you know, I don't know any painter who can paint a portrait as realistic as a photograph. But even
I've seen.
Now when you get a portrait, you want something normally that isn't photorealistic 100%. It should be close, should have the character, should have some life. Like, there are things you can do as a painter that you can't do as a photographer. And so we still have people painting portraits, even though we can do photography, even though we can do digital art. So I guess my hope is, well, when you can spot other people, you know, when you can spot AI and versus human stuff, then there's still value in what the humans are doing. So I guess as much as I'm kind of grumpy about this situation, I'm just like, well, this is the kind of stuff that's going to start happening. I don't know. And I get the reason why it's being delayed is the person who, I don't know, 2 people pulled their stories. That's all I know. The first person sent an email to everybody saying, hey, I think there's AI. I'm not going to say anybody's name. So I don't even know who the accused was. I was like, great. And then when the kerfluffle got settled, a few stories were pulled. And so those have to be filled. And then we can get the thing published again. Whatever. But I just... It's kind of a cluster, all because of AI.
No, all because somebody cheated.
Okay, all because somebody cheated.
It's not the program's fault that the person used it. You know what I mean?
That's true.
So, like, I want to make that distinction early on, because although I don't approve of AI telling stories or doing artwork, like we've talked about, there are some uses for it. It can be used to be a prompt, or list down some ideas, or maybe it's even like a personal assistant.
Yeah.
But not to tell the story, because to tell the story, that's cheating. That's not you telling the story, that's somebody else telling the story. Now, if you get some ideas and you tell the story based on some ideas you got from it, it's still you telling, you taking those ideas and expanding on them. So I think that's a little bit different.
Well, we've been talking about this at work, because there's the whole concept of, students are going to use this. How do you deal with it? And there's one school of thought that's like, all right, all writing has to be done in class while you're being observed. Otherwise, people will cheat.
Well, then you can't do homework.
Well, I stopped giving homework years ago, because you're just asking someone else to do their work for them. They don't do it, or they don't do it.
I'm not saying you anyway. I'm saying that those people that are saying that can't really tell somebody to do homework if they're gonna tell them that they have to write it in front of them.
Well, so
just saying, just making that statement.
You do it in class,
right? But that wouldn't be homework.
Right?
It'd be classwork.
It'd be classwork, but that's cool and all, and I don't mind doing that. In fact, I've already done that for years. If we were doing writing, we did it in class, and it was collected at the end of class. And people, what if I'm not done? Well, the bell rang, you're done. And that was it.
You're done now.
Yeah. Well, otherwise they, either literally, because at the beginning of my career, I'm like, well, just bring it back tomorrow. Like, I saw you start on it at the very least. Let's bring it back tomorrow. And it would never come back. It was so bad that students, students' grades went up when I collected homework that wasn't done, because at least they got something. Because if once it left your room, it never came back, and they would get zeros. So it was like, nah. And they thought I was being mean to them. They thought I was, doing something. Oh, that's not fair, blah, blah, blah. I need more time, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, yeah, well, that's nice, but I'll save you from yourself. Just turn it in now. And again, averages all went up. And I learned pretty early. I was like, yeah, you just, if it needs to be done, it needs to be done in class.
And part of me isn't all upset by that, because some of the stuff is just like, why should the students have to go to school for 7 or 8 hours a day and then come home and spend how many hours more? Like, how long do you want their work day to be? And so I get some of that. I really do. I try not to have. My thing is I have work that you can do at home, but you don't have to. Like, there should have been time in class to get it done. And if you have homework, it's for you to get caught up because you've missed something and fell behind. But it's not because I planned it for you to have homework. So there's that. But anyway, so the teachers are talking about how to use AI or what to use AI, and some people are like, and I'm more on this side, I think, for students. We need to be teaching them the correct way to use it, which is also going to lead them toward being able to use it incorrectly easier, which is why it's a slippery slope to be working on, because somebody's going to get upset. But if we don't teach them how to use it appropriately, then my fear is that you're setting them behind people who do know how to use it, because it is a powerful tool. And that's the thing. I think students need to learn how to use it as an ethical tool.
Come on, kid. Come on. Come on, kid. Come on. Oh, come on, kid. Come on. Yeah, come on, kid. Come on.
So you know how I've had the last 2 weeks off, or at least since like the 20th or something. I have watched pretty much absolutely no television. I watched a little bit of the Penguin episode 3. That whole season's over, and I'm still on season 3. I had 2 weeks off, still haven't finished it, and I like the show. Dune Prophecy's out on Max, and still haven't watched the show, and I want to.
Yeah, I've known about that for a while.
But I just, even with time off, I've been busy working, I guess. But I did watch Skeleton Crew, because that has been enjoyable for me. So, although this last week's episode, I was like, well, okay, sort of. But as predicted, same problem I had at the very first episode. All the white people are kind of asshats. And this latest episode, yep, still the same. You know, it's not like terrible. It's not a terrible message. It's just that you watch.
Kill all the white people.
Huh?
I said, kill all the white people.
Well, I mean, again, it's not quite that bad, but it's just like, really? Because the high achieving female, the strong female character, who's the only white character that had any possible redeeming qualities, who was still a bit of an asshat. Yep, she was again an asshat, an uncaring, selfish, self-centered person, and it's just like, and it's just always like, you can just tell. You can just be like, hey, if you're this color, you're going to be incompetent, or you're going to be evil, or you're going to be just a general dumbass. And if you're any of these other colors,
comedy relief, bad guy.
Yeah. And I'm not saying that for all media in general. I'm just saying currently at Disney, Star Wars, and Marvel, that's it. And it's I don't care what race you want to put in that little equation. It's a shitty equation, and you shouldn't have it.
So I knew I recognized turtles when they showed up, right?
What?
Like the Nick that was in the comments like last time or the time before. Turtles.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. Like I recognize him from our Goldberg's channel, but the David Finch fan server too. But the thing is that the last time that I saw him was the reason that the name stuck is because apparently he claimed that he reported me for some ist thing.
Oh, okay.
But then it was a mistake, and he tried to fix it, and I'm gonna have to do all this, jump all through these hoops to fix it, and I'm like, nope, I'm not. So I recognized the Nick because of that, and because there were other members that had that happen.
Huh.
So I don't know if his account was hacked. That's possible. I have seen him since on the Alec Goldberg channel.
Yeah.
And his name is actually my son's name. So,
Huh.
so I'm hoping that that was the case, that it was somebody hacked his account, but that's where I recognized it from. I knew the name. I knew I recognized the name. I just wasn't sure which particular place that I knew it from. Gonna have to redraw the original poster for him.
Okay.
Well, because I've changed the mask.
Yeah, I'm taking the banner off for a while because you're right up in it.
Well, I have to move the camera is what I have to do.
Well,
Until it backs off automatically.
It's the ghost camera.
Well, I know it's StreamYard. I don't know why StreamYard's all of a sudden doing that.
I don't know.
we
I
worked
see
out
your
what was
foray
the problem
into.
with the mic.
How'd your foray into OBS go?
I've got it hooked up so that I can get to. I can go to 2 different platforms right now.
Yeah.
So I can go to the 2 that we normally stream to, but I'm not done by any means. Like, I'm still trying to figure out how to make sure that this is the active microphone for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it tends to want to go to the one that's built in.
Yeah.
Now, from what I can tell, I don't have to download something for the new system. I did have to download a plugin to be able to stream on more than one platform at the same time.
Is that Ninja something? Ninja.
Nope. You're talking about Video Ninja.
Yeah.
It's VDO Ninja. Yeah, that's not it. No.
Yeah.
It's something that you download that allows it to dock. I'll send it to you if you're interested later on. I found someone, actually, Alec referred me to someone that I was actually watching his video at the time. Like, I was watching one of his tutorials at the time that Alec said, hey, this is a guy that helped me a lot. So I'm like,
who was it?
Okay. I'd have to look it up, and I don't have a memory for that right now.
Was it like Michael Freya or something like that?
No, like, I think he goes by Nuts.
Oh no, that is not the guy I was watching.
Now I'm gonna have to
That
look
is
it up
not.
for you.
Nope, not at all. Oh, sorry. You know, I can wait. Like, it's okay. I just wondered.
No, I had to. Stopping for more than one reason.
There's a comment that I did not see.
What's that? Oh,
AKD 6674. Welcome, or bonjour. That's my terrible Midwestern French. And it is 8:38 p.m.
And that camera backed off again.
It likes you.
I'm telling you, it's StreamYard, because I don't have that same problem. I didn't. That's a new problem. The server keeps wanting to.
No problem, AKD 6674. Stop by anytime.
And for those of you on YouTube, is a Twitch streamer, so it's all good, in case you wondered. But
oh, hey, it zoomed in a little bit. Is that you?
Well, I'm trying to zoom it in, but I can't have this up and see what I'm doing.
Yeah, so the gentleman that I've been watching is Michael Feyrer Jr. Feyrer Jr. And his stuff has been pretty useful for me.
I thought I was going to be slick and do a live stream just real quick, because I lowered, like I adjusted some stuff. Yeah, I failed. I was like, yeah, I need to watch the videos again. I need to do it. Like, I haven't done it enough to be able to set it up without having to look at a video, but I'm getting there. I'm getting closer. Old dog learning new tricks and all. But
I just stopped in to find out what time it was.
yeah. Maybe they're trying to figure out what part of the world we're in. I don't know.
Well, you know, we could tell. We don't hide where we're coming from.
No.
Okay, so I was gonna. Oh yeah, so like the last time when it backed off, it's because every time it does that, I open a new window for something.
Yeah, I don't know.
I've noticed a correlation with that. All right, so. Yeah, a second while I get to my history real quick. Oh, actually. I just subscribed to this channel, so. That's easier, because then I can find it. Okay, so it's Nutty. And he streams on both platforms too, but he's more of a Twitch platform guy. But it's Nutty LMAO. And he's got tons of videos on OBS.
All right. I'll have to give him a look.
One thing I didn't do was indicate that there was liquid down here.
Well, I mean, it's a sewer. I'm assuming it's.
Well, yes, but I didn't get to the bottom because he was just dropping out. So
Oh, okay.
I'm not saying that we didn't talk about the sewer having water in it. I was saying I didn't indicate it because I hadn't gotten to the base of it yet.
Okay.
So now, not only am I indicating it,
So, your cousin, he's a dishwasher now, right?
That could be a lot of different people.
Okay, your former co-star.
As far as I know, he's both a cook and a dishwasher, depending on what they need.
Right.
Why?
My son just got a job as a dishwasher. And it pays more than when I got paid in college to work at a factory. Which just makes me feel old. But also, like, he's allowed to wear a earbud while he works. And I'm like, wait, so you get paid how much to stand there and wash dishes? Which I know darn well is mostly through a machine. So, like, you get paid how much? And I was like, so I'm like, and maybe because I haven't worked in a restaurant since I was a teenager, but the idea of just being able to do dishes for 8 hours and then go home and be done and not have to think about anything like that while listening to music, I'm like, I wonder if they need any summer help. I could make some extra money.
If that's a goal for you.
I'm just saying. I was like,
Yeah,
wow.
me too.
It wasn't like he was getting, like, it's not enough for me to quit my job or anything like that. Like, I'm not, obviously. But and you know, he's not paying for insurance and a whole bunch of other stuff, but he'll be bringing home about as much as I do after I pay for all that kind of stuff. So if he's working full time, and I'm like, and you know, he has to work the full time, whereas I have summers off that I'm basically paying for. So you know, there's whatever, but. And that's listening to his math, and I'm like, yeah, we'll wait and see what your check really comes out to. But I'm okay having another money maker in the family. Doesn't bother me. His uncle just gave him a car. It was a totaled car. His uncle works in a junkyard, so he actually bought 3 cars. He bought a parts car, he bought this car, and he bought another car for my other son. And he's working, and my other son's going up and working on it with him. So, it's just kind of some, you know, which I think fantastic. It's great. But it's kind of funny. This car that my brother-in-law gave my son, about 2 nights after we had it, he had a flat. Like, all right, whatever, you know, went out and got taken care of, and said, you know, run it over to the tire barn in the morning. And so he ran it over there, and they're like, yeah, your rim's bent. Okay. Which, you know, it technically was totaled at one point, so. And I know my brother-in-law would not intentionally give anything defective like that, knowingly. So we put a donut on it, drove it back up to my brother-in-law's, and he fixed the rim. Here, there you go. So I also found out my brother-in-law likes Albanese gummy bears. Because I was up at his house and I saw a big bag of them. I was like, oh. And then I was like, have you had the True to Fruit ones? And he had never heard of them. It's like, well, they're Albanese, but they're these ones. Not a sponsor, but oh my God, I would love it if they would. But anyway, with the red band is the absolute best. Because they got banana and blueberry and a watermelon and strawberry. Makes me happy. So I sent a bag up for my brother-in-law. I'm always excited to see Albanese. I don't know why. It's like that's the one product I'm like, oh, Albanese. And I also have a fun little game because I'm old and from the Midwest, I guess. But if I'm in a gift store and I see gummy bears that are wrapped, I'll look because a lot of them are actually Albanese. You can tell because they have a little A on them, even if they've been prepackaged somewhere else. It's like, oh, neat. Neat trick. So I saw, there are lots of videos out right now about how the Acolyte is killing Skeleton Crew on Disney Plus because they're like, people who are watching the show like the show, but hardly anyone's watching the show. All right, okay, cool, whatever. Like, I'm watching it. I've enjoyed it. But I saw a title of one. That's all. I didn't click on it because I didn't really care. But, well, I kind of thought about it. But they're like, if you de-infanticize, yeah, that's the word, de-infanticize Star Wars, it works better. And they were, I'm assuming, talking about how, like, Empire Strikes Back is probably the most popular or critically acclaimed of all the films. That's the one that people are like, yeah, that's the best one. More often than not.
Yep.
You don't like the Empire Strikes Back?
I said yep.
Okay. So that one,
Empire Strikes Back is the best one. It's also the only one that has the real science fiction writers attached.
Well, it's also kind of dark.
Did you know that?
No, I didn't know that.
Lee Brackett, she was a real science fiction writer. So, like Lawrence Kasdan's involved in all of them, but if you watch Lawrence Kasdan talking to George Lucas and Steven Spielberg, he pretty much just does what they tell him that he wants and that they want in it. But Lee Brackett's the one who developed the relationship, made the made it more feasible.
Yeah.
Like that's the whole carbonite thing, and yeah.
Well,
it's a big difference between the movies with her involved and without. So.
Well, so I was thinking about kind of where this applies tonally, because Jar Jar Binks and C-3PO and the Ewoks are for little kids.
You could look at it that way, but I think they're more supposed to be like comedy relief, and not saying that they're not for kids as well, but Lucas was saying that, like, if you watch old black and white movies, they would have like a black maid or a person of color that was actually comic relief. They showed up to be a friend to the main person, but they didn't really have a whole lot of input to the story, just comic relief. So that's what he said he created them for.
He also said it's for children.
Okay, but not in what I saw. So I don't know what you saw. I just know what I saw. So.
Well, he's been rather upfront. It's for children, but again, some of the stuff that goes on is, even in the very first movie, you got people being choked out and killed. There's not a lot of blood, but people are being shot. And there is some blood. I mean, when they cut that guy's arm off, big old smear of jelly. So yeah, it kind of goes, like, there's a spectrum there, I think. And that's why I really liked Andor. Andor is not for children. It's just not. And it's really good. Skeleton Crew is really good. It's for children. But it's also not necessarily, it's for children the way Goonies was for children, I guess. So it's not for me, I guess. When you look at Jar Jar Binks and the fart jokes and stepping in alien feces and just being stupid, that to me is infantilized humor. It's really low humor. C-3PO at least was a little bit, he had attitude. He wasn't as bad. I never liked him. I liked him more after Jar Jar Binks, but I never I was like, whatever. You're not really supposed to like him, I don't think. But then I look at the other end of the spectrum, and I'm thinking about Star Trek and how I was upset when they started dropping F-bombs in Star Trek. Because I was like,
Now wait, like, I wouldn't necessarily feel comfortable sharing this with my kids. I mean, they're old enough now, whatever, but it's like, Star Trek, to me, was adults because it didn't have to rely on the language that they used at the middle school. And, you know, they tried to make it grittier by including language which goes against canon, by the way. So, I've seen this attempt to make it more adult by using more adult language, and I don't think it's ever really worked for Star Trek. And I don't want to see it in Star Wars. And I think there's a... When Star Wars is hitting on all cylinders, it should have something for a large age group. But that still means it's got to have something that for adults as well as children, which is why the Skeleton Crew for me really works, because I think it has all that. It's why I think the original films worked. Also, there was that sense of awe and wonder. But as a writer,
Yeah.
that's that kind of sweet spot I'm looking to create normally. That's where it's not for little children per se, but if you were precocious, you'd enjoy it, I guess. So it takes itself seriously without having to get, I don't know. That's the thing I've been having a hard time. Like, I don't have a word that I can place for the tone that I think it is. I have a feeling for it, for me, but I've yet to be able to articulate where that sweet spot is. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I guess.
Well, no, maybe it has something to do with escapism. Like, when you make Star Trek too gritty, it loses its escapism. The lessons become, or the morality that they're trying to push, becomes a little heavy-handed and just not as fun.
Not a big fan of Star Trek anyway, so.
Well, I was watching another video. I think it was the Critical Drinker. He was the one about how it's basically dead. Okay.
What?
Well, so it was the Critical Drinker. I think it was. I could be wrong, but I think that's who I was watching. You said, it's like, even though you have like 5 Star Trek shows that have been on in the last like 5 years, most people aren't talking about them. Nobody cares. Like, it's not the cultural giant that it used to be.
Well, STD just got canceled from canon.
I know.
I just thought it was funny they called it STD.
Yeah.
It's fitting with James Kirk and all, but they didn't have James Kirk. But apparently they had an STD.
died. At least it has on my end. Okay, I'm back. There you are.
On my screen, everything went dark. That's all.
But it's back now. So, life is good.
So Monday is supposed to be our first day back for the new semester. And they're calling for between 2 and 5 inches of snow Sunday night. So I'm figuring we'll get about half an inch just to get everybody's hopes up. And then it'll be a big letdown. That's my guess. Does Eli go back to school on Monday?
Oh, he's already back to school.
Oh, yeah?
Yep.
Wow.
He went Thursday. And he couldn't go back fast enough. And that's for him, not for me, for him.
I did not take it the way as in it was from you. I figured I knew how he felt about school.
Yeah, when I said he didn't go back fast enough, it wasn't because I wasn't like, oh, I'm so sick of him. He just can't get back to school fast enough.
All right.
It's the opposite way around. He was like so bored in tears here that he was dying for something. Go back to school and see people he likes and get the hell away from mom and dad. Yeah, I like hanging out with him a hell of a lot more than he likes hanging out with me. But I can't say as I blame him. When I was his age, pretty much I had a whole country between me and my mom, so
That's one of the things I've never, for the most part, my boys like hanging out with their mom and me. You know, whatever. I don't know why. Because I was like you. When I was a teenager, I was barely home. As soon as I got my driver's license, I pretty much got a job. And I was already dating. So, yeah, if I was awake, I was either at school, at a job, or with my girlfriend. That's pretty much it. Or my friends, I mean, I guess, but, that was generally with my girlfriend. So,
yeah, I didn't have the school distinction. I was doing stuff I wasn't supposed to. Instead of school.
Sanity Sucks asks, are you drawing a comic? First, welcome to the Gordox Pub, Sanity Sucks. And yes, Rich is drawing a comic. I am not. I am abstaining from artwork on this project, as we want it to be good. So Rich will do it, because he's good. So Mastiff is our main character, and he is set in a kind of a post-apocalyptic world. We kept deciding when we talked about it, it was more of a post-apocalyptic / cyberpunk thing. So there's some technology. It's just very restricted because there's not a lot of energy left. Anyway, and currently, Mastiff is going through some areas of a very large city-state, as in it's literally, if you know anything about Kowloon, what it used to be, it's kind of like that. A very large city, all within a very small, confined space. And there are mutations and things like that involved. And that was a terrible elevator pitch. You should work on that.
It's a Mad Max detective.
Mad Max detective. Okay.
Well, elevator pitch cuts out all the details, right?
Yeah. It is not Asian based. It was simply, at this point in time, that distinction would be meaningless.
Yeah, we just like Kowloon as an idea.
Yeah, it was an inspiration for kind of what this is like.
Yeah, this isn't the only city. That's just one.
Right.
But it just happens to be the one that this story is taking place in.
Currently, the character of Mastiff is trying to hunt down a politician's son
Missing
who was
person.
kidnapped. What?
I just said a missing person.
Oh, okay.
Simplifying. I'm just trying to simplify, that's all.
No, that's fine. Like I said, it's one of those things where, as Sanity Sucks, I'm the writer, so I have like pages and pages of notes and things that have all they're just part of the process. So yeah, I'm more likely to overcomplicate. Rich is more likely to simplify.
Right, it's a lot easier as a writer if somebody else looks at the whole of yours and then simplifies it than you trying to.
Oh my
Because
gosh!
as writers, we try to put in every little cool thing we want to talk about, but that's if we did that, then we didn't need to tell the story.
I saw a story like that once where I had a concept and for the character and everything, and when the editor wrote the blurb for it, he called it a energy vampire, and I was like, that's not what I mean. Okay, I guess he's an energy vampire. It took someone else to simplify it. That's all.
Yeah, sometimes we're just too close to it.
Yeah.
I want to make sure I'm still on camera.
You are, I'd tell you.
What is the character time for? That's what they asked already.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Now.
Oh. Oh my goodness.
For some reason.
I don't know if we.
For some reason, my power supply doesn't want a power supply.
Oh, that's weird. Sanity.
Yeah, I was.
Go ahead.
No, I was just informing you. I disappeared for
Oh.
a couple of minutes.
For me, I mean, first off, it started. We started with a whole different character in mind, and it was all right. Rich and I had been wanting to work together on something, and so we were kind of tooling around with this, and so the world kind of got built, and then Rich came up with the name Mastiff, and then all of a sudden it was like, oh, hey, that's a really good name. Like, I really like that's, you know, fireworks were going off in my brain. I was like, yep, that's it. That's the name. That's the character. That's the one. That's the one. And then now that I have Google Docs, where you can view the tabs, which I love, I've got a script that I share with Rich, and then I kind of have a story Bible where I just kind of put different ideas into it, and little notes for me, little concept. Like, there's some stuff that you don't necessarily need to know as the reader, but as the writer, you kind of have to know how things work, even if it's, you know, why is it that Mastiff looks like this? Why are there these weird monster type things? And all that stuff has to be worked out ahead of time. And even if the characters don't know what that is, I kind of think that I have to know, at least up to a certain point, what that is. James Patterson he did that master class where he said you outline and you keep outlining and you keep outlining and keep outlining. Yeah, I've kind of been doing that. And, you know, you develop characters and backstory, you know, so you know who you're playing with before you start. It's kind of like setting it up so that you can write fan fiction of your own universe, in a way. I think fan fiction sometimes is easier. And please, if you write fan fiction, please do not come at me. Don't kill me for saying this. But it's my opinion, and only my opinion, that fan fiction sometimes is easier because you understand how the world works, because you have consumed enough of it to have a handle on it. And when you're writing it yourself and creating it from scratch, thanks, man.
Yeah, you're not trying to create it and
Yeah, it's
work
a
out the
process.
problems.
Yeah, if you do all that ahead of time, I think writing the story is easier. And there was an anthology recently that the guy had a very well detailed shared universe type thing, and so he had all these details, and it made it super fast to write for me. So I have started, I outline a ton before I ever, like, just building the world so I know how it works,
Apparently,
so that I can.
they've had enough of the process.
Oh, sorry.
Or not.
That's what I'm saying. You get me started on the writing process, I will keep on going. However, my wife just made me delightful dinner or snackums, fresh from the oven. Rich and I have both been published. Yeah. So no other comics, right? This is our first. I mean, closest I ever got was superhero fiction.
I've had a piece of artwork published in an indie comic, but yeah, nuts. It's not really much for bragging rights.
Yeah, but we both. I mean, you have a lot of awards as an artist, and you and I both have been published. So.
Yep.
Okay. Hold on. Most of my stuff is in anthologies.
Right.
So,
a lot of it.
Gosh darn it! 1 minute. I'll be right back. It's time for my 9:30 stretch, anyways. Hold on, I'll be right back. I'm gonna go get some. Not mute. So you can hear me. I can't hear you.
Ooh, wow. It's not like a 1 or 2 published stories.
So the last thing I was published in, if you want to look it up, there's an anthology called Divergent Realms. That was for neurodivergent writers. Anyway, I think Rich and I were both first in this one.
Yeah, you probably shouldn't enlarge yourself if you're going to do that.
Oh, fine. Whoa! That's way too much of my face.
And it scrolled out again.
Oh, yeah, it did for you. Then Rich and I were both in some of these, although I don't remember. You're in different ones. But these wonderful Planet Anthology series.
I'm in Jupiter and Neptune and
Oh, you're in
Earth.
both of these? I thought you were in a different one.
Yeah, and Earth.
Oh, there you go. You were just in more of me. So, there are those. Yeah, and I've got another one coming out here in another couple of weeks. We just had a little speed bump. Talked about that at the beginning of the show, but basically somebody was kind of caught using AI, and so things was caught right at the last minute, and as often happens with publishing, until it comes out, it's not out.
Something in CACM magazine, which is actually a non-fiction magazine, but they have a small fiction section. So it's harder to get published there, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
If they're not buying a lot, it's hard to get published there, no matter what.
I'm publishing anthologies with Kevin J. Anderson. There's a horror anthology I'm published with him in. I'm published with Jody Lynn Nye in one. I've been published in Flash Fiction Online 3 times. Jesse keeps buying a whole bunch of my stories, but he doesn't end up putting it out yet. There's supposed to be a novella with my Snargy stories, which is an orc on a quest. I think there's one called Heroes and Villains that I have 2 stories published in. Actually, the one that I'm with Kevin J. Anderson in, I have 2 stories published in also, but one of them is in the Heroes and Villains Anarchy 3 or whatever as well. They were published simultaneously, which is not really that often.
That was so good. It was basically cinnamon bread or a cinnamon roll with berries and vanilla ice cream. Yep. I have a feeling I will never see any more of that. It will be gone before I get back downstairs.
You tried Christmas crack yet?
Have I tried Christmas crack?
Yeah.
No, I can't say that I have.
Ah. That there's trouble. That's why they call it Christmas crack, right?
Yeah, I guess. Sounds like
Well,
what you get when Santa bends over to put the presents under the Christmas tree, but hey, whatever.
Yeah, well, it's not. It's several different types of sweets rolled up into one, or flattened out into one. Ours was a base of regular crackers, but there are others that have used graham crackers. But you've got chocolate, and there's, I don't know, some kind of, I don't even know what it is, some kind of caramelish mixture that she made. But there are recipes for it, and they're basically flat slabs, but you can put sprinkles on it, you can put M&Ms. You could probably put pretty much anything on it, but I can't eat pretty much anything, so it's limited for me.
Well, I remember for several years, my mother would go for a Christmas party with her friends. Sanity Sucks thinks your pinky on the right looks off.
Which pinky? This one?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
I'm
okay.
assuming.
It's the angle, so it's all right. You can't see the back of that part of the hand because it's not in the frame. This hand is curled differently than the other hand.
But yeah, for years my mom would, every year they'd have a Christmas party, my mom's friends would, and they would go and they would make Christmas candy. And you'd get various types, because whatever each person made, like they all got samples of what everyone else made. So you'd get all these different types of things. And I always thought that was great. And I was always thinking, I I always thought
Try
that the
turning
church I
the
went
wheel a
to
little.
should have done that. Like you just come because the church has a relatively large kitchen, and you get people in for fellowship as they you make and swap recipes, and I always thought that'd be a good way of doing it. But as a person who doesn't actually make the candies, I just eat the candies. It wasn't really anything I could bring to the table other than the suggestion.
Right. See if this looks a little bit better.
And lop it off. He's been injured.
Well, there's nothing to say that he can't have just 3 fingers, but
He's a
I guess
Samsonite.
rather try to get it right if I can. It isn't at the same angle of the other hand, so it's going to be a little bit different. But you're actually not going to see a whole lot of it because it's going to be thrown into shadow work on anyway. But
Sanity sucks says, didn't mean to attack, sir.
oh, I didn't feel
You
like
think of it
attack.
as helpful, constructive criticism.
Yeah. I'm just trying to logistically, I'm talking it out as I'm thinking about it as well, so.
Yeah, that's kind of the scary part about, because we're trying to show pretty much the entire creation of this comic as much as we can on YouTube. And Twitch.
YouTube and Twitch, yeah.
And
The idea is that if anyone else feels like they're failing, they don't have to feel alone, so.
or if they feel like only other people do it, eventually somebody's got to do it. Why not you?
Yeah, I think that's the best it's going to get. I think the main thing was this part wasn't the same size as this part. This is a lot closer together and there's more forward facing than this hand.
Okay.
This one's coming up, this one's reaching out. Gotta make sure this thing's charging so it doesn't get us. Gets me anyway.
Yeah, there was a map I saw because like that snowstorm is supposed to come through tomorrow, I think. And again, we're right on the edge between, I think we're in the 2 to 5 inches, not the 5 to 10 inches that they're supposedly calling for, which in my experience we never get what they call for, but that's just me. Close. Sanity sucks. I'm in Indiana actually, and the weird part is the farther south you go, the worse the snow is supposed to be. I was like, that's the most messed up thing I've seen in a while. So
I am not in Indiana.
yeah, he's in Maine.
He laughs at my winters.
Well, they're different, really. Like I've lived in both winters, really. But Michigan, I lived in Michigan, right near the border of Indiana,
Yeah.
and there was a lot more lake effect snow, so you had a lot deeper snow. Here, I mean, we can have snow pretty deep, but it's a lot more icy and black ice, and I think we've had more people die in ice storms, you know.
Yeah.
They weigh down the trees, and then the trees will break and fall over and crush houses. And
Or kill power.
well, yeah, I mean, they kill the power, but after they kill the power, the weight on the trees, weight on the branches,
Right.
leans them over so far, or it just breaks right through. Well, you know, yeah, Maine's got great fishing. Michigan's got some good fishing. Minnesota's got 10,000 lakes, so they've got a lot of fishing too. Just depends on what you're fishing for and whether you're fishing for saltwater or freshwater. And where are you from, Sanity Suck?
Yeah, we had one viewer from from France. So we've also had people New Jersey.
We're at New Jersey.
Yeah.
I'm a Jersey boy originally, so.
You said, "Dang, I'm sorry." Trenton.
Well, yeah, that's not where I'm from. I'm from the Amboys, which you'd probably be sorrier for.
Perth.
Perth Amboy, yeah. Born in Perth Amboy, but there was no maternity ward in South Amboy at the time. So. We were from South Amboy.
Well, I hope you can see something. Okay, now I'm back. Now you're back. Oh, it's just me. My bandwidth is low. I don't know why my streaming's low.
Yeah, that's something else too with OBS is you have to have a fast internet connection to stream to multiple platforms.
I can believe that.
Like the slower it is, the less platforms, fewer platforms.
Okay, I don't know if you're actually drawing something. Because if you
now I
are,
move the camera down again, so
Yeah.
working on the big panel.
well, that's fine. I just kind of thought.
No,
you might
I'm
wanna
just
know.
telling you what I'm working on, so that's why. That's laid out enough. I've got to figure out what I want to do for the light source on that because this guy is going to be mostly in shadow, except for the sludge dripping off of them, and I got to just figure out how close I want it to be before you can see the sludge dripping off of them to look right.
Ah.
Meanwhile, this picture, I planned out the reverse of this picture 2 days ago. And I'm reversing it because storytelling. We want to move from this panel to this panel, and then this panel to this panel, going that way so you turn the page.
Did you make any New Year's resolutions?
Me?
Yeah.
No.
Just continue to be perfect the way you are. I appreciate that. I like that.
I just want to work on continuing being.
So,
Yeah. I decided I was going to learn the Loomis method this year. I don't know why. I just decided, you know what? Screw this. I'm going to learn the Loomis method. I'd seen a thing for it. Oh, hey, Sanity Sucks wants to know, what is your process for identifying the light source? I paint as well, and always curious about other people's approach.
So, I don't know if I determine the light source the same in line art or comic art as I do in a painting. When I'm doing a painting, I generally have an idea long ahead of time because it's a condition and I have to talk with somebody else about it, but in a comic panel, part of the decision making of how the lighting works is the contrast. I want these guys darker so that they contrast against him, which will make him stand out. And like the fluid that he's in is going to be dark and become, the panel edge. There's I guess the one really good thing about doing comic work or comic style work is that you don't have to conform to one light source necessarily. You can cheat a little bit for artistic reasons, and that's the reason that I'm waiting for that, is because I want to give it some thought, because I want the contrast to be going on between these guys, because this is one creature.
You can't see it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I want him to pop out, so these guys are going to be darker in the background. that means I'm probably going to go lighter back here. So it'll be light, dark, light, and that the contrast will bring each other out. Here, this is a big panel, so it's just going to be as dramatic of a light source as I can get. Sometimes that'll be two light sources. Like I've got two light sources going on in this panel. One that's overhead, and then there's one that's just slightly from the right. But I haven't finished them out. I'm just kind of penciling them because I'm not sure whether I'm going to color these or whether I'm going to just do gray Copics. Or even, you know, gray gouache or watercolor or whatever. What kind of stuff do you paint?
Canvases.
Well, you know, a lot of times I paint on masonite
That's true.
or watercolor paper.
How did we decide to create as a team rather than solo?
We've known each other for a while. We've worked together as in a writing group.
I asked him.
Yeah.
So the way I tell it is that I like the way that Brett writes a more fun story, less serious story. And I wanted those elements in a comic. Although we've written a lot of serious stuff and not really much for
I'm telling you, that's that sweet spot I was talking about earlier, where it's not too gritty and dark, but yet it's also not too much for little kiddies. It's kind of, there's a realm, there's a sweet spot, I think.
well,
If
we're
you
working
can
on
hit it.
like detective adventure type thing. So I mean,
Yeah.
it doesn't necessarily have to be super fun, but I guess the adventure element
I should not be this tired. My goodness. Took a nap today even. I wasn't going to, but the dog was looking all cute and cuddly, and then she put her head on my arm, and I couldn't move because she fell asleep. And what was I supposed to do? I was stuck. Sanity Sucks says, can dark and gritty become too edgy? Can dark and gritty become too edgy?
Is it a question?
Yeah.
Yeah, it can. Well, actually, edgy can become nothing but dark and gritty and not so edgy anymore. I think
that too.
The other way around is that when you try to be too edgy, you're not writing a story anymore. You're trying to have shock value, or you're not serving the story anymore.
Probably all personal taste.
It definitely is personal taste. I don't know if it's all personal taste. I think there is a lot of subjectivity to it, but there is some abject. It's like grimdark. So grimdark is basically anti-heroes that are really villains that are just less villainy than the main villain.
40K?
What's that?
What's 40K?
40,000? Oh, That's what I thought. Warhammer.
Oh, okay.
That's kind of what I thought, but I had to stop for a second because I'm not really a gamer, so I was gonna say that, and then I was gonna be all like, yeah, probably not. I'm just an idiot.
Sanity Sucks says, I thought Grimdark was 40K.
No, Grimdark is a literary genre, subgenre of fantasy. So what I'm saying is that it doesn't have to be a game. There are plenty of books in that subgenre, and they basically are saying that there's nothing good in that world. So it's not edgy anymore when there's nothing good in that world, If your main character is like in the Broken Empire trilogy, where he's a 12-year-old that starts off murdering a priest, but he's the good guy of the story. Yeah, I mean, there's reasons that are legitimate reasons why he screwed up, but if he's the good guy, how is it that I'm gonna root for, like, the bad guys better be super, super bad for him to be the good guy, But to be edgy anymore, it's not edgy, It's kind of run of the mill because there's a whole style on it. Like, originally it was
So,
like Joe
Man of
Abercrombie.
Man of Steel is more like Grimdark, and because of the Snyderverse, and it's not really, but I'm just saying it's closer. It's the darker.
That's supposed. Yeah, it's supposed to be edgier and darker, but it's
Yeah.
for it to be grimdark, Superman would have to be running around killing people, and
He killed people in that movie.
he didn't run around killing people.
Nah, that was Batman. And Batman v Superman.
Yeah, I still don't think that's the same, but
I know. I get it. I'm just simply saying it's.
If you so
I
like
think
if
you
you
can tell
read
which one he's more
if
influenced
you read
by.
Mark Lawrence's Broken Empire trilogy, or Joe Abercrombie's First Law trilogy, those are really good examples. But people have tried to kind of one up each other in that, so that now there's not really much to it anymore. You know what I mean? It's like everybody's got a hidden blade, everybody's killing everybody. Oh, there's no innocent people. Everybody's just murdering people, and where's the value to that? Like, where is it? What do you get out of reading something that everybody's a bad guy? I can't answer that question, and I like a lot of grimdark stuff, but it has to be tempered, which is why I don't just read grimdark.
Is redemption important?
Is redemption important? It depends on who you are.
And it depends on what you're redeeming.
Well, no, I get the question as in there's a lot of characters that are seeking redemption. They've done shit that's wrong, and I think that's more that question is answered very personally. I guess that's what I'm trying to say.
So it's
Like
subjective?
It can be though, but it so if you read a story and redemption's the point, but you don't get that out of the story, then is that a failure, or that's not the point of the story? Do you read a story for redemption? Do you know? I mean, this is not a yes or no answer, like you said. It is subjective. It's an important quality in a lot of the stories that I write. But not all of them. Writers, we're kind of fucked up, right? Sometimes we're resolving and solving stuff that goes on in our own heads that needs attention that it's not getting in real life. Or sometimes
so can a
the
story
answer,
have a completely evil main character? It can.
yes, the protagonist doesn't have to be the good guy. We've had this discussion before too, because the literal original meanings behind protagonist and antagonist is the protagonist has a goal, and the antagonist wants to stop that person from getting their goal. So yes, it's possible. And it's also possible to write a story in which you want to see the bad guy fail. So the hook for the reader is that they're going to stick around to see somebody fail. Your thoughts?
I think you said something wrong.
Okay.
Because you said, well, I could have heard it wrong. That's why I was kind of replaying it through my head. Don't most stories
the reader wants the evil guy to lose?
Yes, but that's not necessarily why you're reading the story. So you don't want some of them. You don't want the evil guy to lose. You want the good guy to win.
Okay.
But some of them you want the evil guy to lose. You've seen so much. Like, for instance, the Pillars of the Earth. Pillars of the Earth, the good guy in the story dies and another generation takes up the suffering under the bad guy. You know? That's not a giveaway because that book is a pretty long book. But you're really reading that book after a while to see that bad guy fall hard. As hard as he made other people suffer. Like you can tell the story. You can tell like Star Wars from Darth Vader's point of view if you wanted to, instead of telling it from Luke's point of view. Or you could tell it from the Emperor's point of view. We don't, but it's still possible. And I think that's the heart of the question is, does it have to be told in one particular order? It doesn't necessarily.
Well, I think anytime you have any heist film to some degree, you are rooting for criminals. Now, normally we either make the victim
A relatively faceless bank or something, or like in Ocean's 11, you make the owner of or the person in control of the vault, just an evil jerk or whatever. So you're happy to watch that guy lose, but ultimately, you are rooting for criminals. If you watch The Italian Job, either version, you are rooting ultimately for criminals. They're just less criminal or less evil than somebody else.
Well, when you're doing that, though, you got to include stories like Gone in 60 Seconds, where he's not a criminal anymore. He's reformed, and he's forced back into it to save his brother's life, right?
Right. Well, there's all kinds of different ways of doing it. I'm just saying.
But that's what I'm saying, is that sometimes you're reading a story to watch the good guy win, and sometimes you're reading a story to watch a bad guy lose. I guess that's what I was getting at, is that you can do it either way. And it doesn't matter what format it is, you can still focus that story on, this is such a bad guy, you want to see him lose to somebody, and then introduce the guy that he's going to lose to. And I'm not saying that most of the time it doesn't fall into the categories you're saying. I'm just saying there are exceptions to all of those rules.
There was an episode of Amazing Stories. Remember that show from, I think it was the 80s? But it's kind of like Twilight Zone, but different.
They used to do it was like a mini series, but they had several seasons of mini series.
Yeah. But there was one of them where this guy was running for class president, I think. And he's also promising all these girls stuff, and a meteorite hits and he becomes magnetized, and so you're watching the protagonist is this character. He's an absolute scumbag. And so you are just kind of watching to see how bad this gets for him. And as he's trying to deal with realizing that he's become a circus freak. And I mean, God, that episode scarred me for life. I don't know why. I've never liked it. I've always remembered it, and I'm okay with that. Like I actually enjoy the fact that I don't like it. Like that one particular episode, just because. Yeah, it was just. I don't know. There's something kind of. There is something satisfying about watching the guy lose at the end. And you have to know, you'd have to watch the episode to know exactly what I mean. So yeah, I mean, I guess you're right. There is, I can think of definitely a story where you're watching to see the bad guy lose,
Yeah,
and who happens to be the protagonist. Well, I know. I just like to have examples
right.
I can think of.
I know of a few, but I don't know. I'm well read across different genres, and some genres are better for that than others. And he asked, seeing the bad guy win, and that's not really what we're talking about. I think the bad guy can be the protagonist, but I don't think the bad guy can win and be satisfying unless it's a worse bad guy that he's winning against. And that's that whole grimdark anti-hero setup. Or are you talking about maybe The Godfather, or? But in the end, they don't really win.
Well,
I mean, they win temporarily, but they don't in the end. So
that's only because Godfather 3 was not as good as the first two. Although in the second one, he ends up, spoiler alert for a movie that's I don't know how many decades old, but
let's see. You're talking about movies, and I'm talking about the book.
Oh yeah.
There was no Godfather 3. That's a movie.
Yeah, that's why
the book was Godfather 1 and 2. They broke it down into 2.
Yeah.
So you
Oh,
see,
bad guys are. I mean, you can look at like Hannibal Lecter. There was. He starts off as purely villainous, and then he gets his own book eventually, and you're kind of rooting for him because.
yeah, but you're rooting for him because there's someone that's worse.
Right, but he says, "What if the bad guy was doing it for a righteous reason?" And if you pay attention, like if you look at what goes on, like when we first hear about Hannibal Lecter, we hear about how terrible he was and how he killed a guy because he didn't like the way he played in the orchestra. Like it was really petty stuff. And then it becomes you start to, they start to make you kind of sympathize with some of this, and they kind of give him a sympathetic backstory, and and they try to make him more human. And of course, he's dealing with people who are worse than he is, and whatever. It's just anything can be done if a bad guy's,
Well, so if a bad guy's got a good reason, and it's a relatable reason, you're probably not going to consider him a bad guy. You're probably going to consider him an anti-hero.
Yeah, like Lucifer.
Or the Punisher.
Yeah. Which I've never quite liked the whole concept of Lucifer, but whatever. But
yeah, I don't watch it because, I'm not going to watch a show where Lucifer's the good guy.
Yeah, it seems a little weird to me, but I understand that people, I get the point. Or, John Wick was a hitman.
Right, but again, he was reformed and he got sucked back into it.
Yeah. So for comics, what about Freeze? As in Mr. Freeze? Or what?
What's that?
Sandy sucks for comics example. What about Freeze? Depends on which. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, Batman's.
Yeah. Mr. Freeze, right?
Yeah.
That's Batman's Freeze.
Again, there are lots of ways of doing it. The fact that there's a whole category for things like grimdark shows there's a market for it, right? I mean, don't let us. We're not gatekeepers. We're willing to do But that doesn't mean you can't do something else.
Well, we're not giving you definitive answers where you can't do this or can't do that.
Ooh.
Like Orson Scott Card told me when I wrote a first person plural perspective story, because you can't do that. And then he goes, well, you know, every time I say that, I break that rule. So rules are meant to be broken. You just have to know the rules to break them.
Or break them
Or at
so
least-
well that
Well, you have to know them well enough to, you know, break them in a way that you have to know them well enough to know their weaknesses where you can break them, I guess, would be a better way of putting it. There's nothing really impossible. It's just you're gonna have to. I think a lot of the just factual reality is that the more that you're gonna have a crowd root for somebody, the less they're gonna perceive him as a bad guy. I mean, they can perceive him as a not so nice guy, but they're not going to perceive him as the villain of the story if they're like him, you know? Even like Hannibal Lecter is an excellent example of that, and what I'm talking about is blurring the lines. Because Hannibal Lecter is a bad guy. I mean, really. But he's not the worst person. He's just a bad person.
Zangief. Just because you're a bad guy doesn't make you a bad guy. But Sanity Sucks says, do you have any example where the rules of writing / storytelling were broken, but it worked? One of my favorite pieces of literature, The Great Gatsby, Chapter 3. One of the basic rules for writing normally is that whatever tense you start in, you generally want to stay in. You shouldn't be just, like, if you're going to be switching, there should be some indication to the audience that a switch has been made. Otherwise, it reads weird. And yet, Fitzgerald was able to go through, and in Chapter 3, he transitions from past tense to present tense and then back into past tense again. And it's an effect. If you've read The Great Gatsby, the first chapter has a boring party, second chapter has a slightly better party, but then when we get to Gatsby's party, that's present tense, because Gatsby's party is a party that never stops. It is ongoing and forever. It is the American dream. And Fitzgerald does this by breaking the rules of how you write this, of how you use tense. And he did it masterfully. And I don't think it was an accident when it's blended so well. But then again, I will rave about Great Gatsby. Rich does not understand or appreciate the same way I do. I barely convinced you to watch one of the movies. So,
like I'm just wondering if he's not probably talking about like narrative mode. He's probably talking about like what we were talking about as far as like what characters, you know,
what
good
rules
characters,
for
bad
characters would you
characters.
say that there are? This is where the rules of writing / storytelling were broken. So,
Well, yeah, but
what
yeah, I
rule
don't.
would be broken by using an evil character?
So you and I would talk about rules maybe in a different light than this person's talking about it. That's what I'm asking is, I don't think he meant narrative mode. I'm assuming it's a he as well, and that's probably bad, but I'm just wondering if that's what they meant, or if there was a specific story archetype or that they're talking about, because like I could see I don't know. I could see guidelines being understood as rules. We hear that all the time. That there are no set in stone rules to tell you what you can and can't write about. But generally, writing is about communication, so we don't want to confuse anybody, right? And what you're talking about is narrative mode, and as in not confusing somebody. Like, you don't want to jump from a first person to a third person narrative mode, because you don't want to have them confused as in who's telling that part of the story. Am I making things worse?
No.
Because this is, I don't know for sure when they're talking about rules of writing. Because see, it says / storytelling. Writing and storytelling not necessarily the same thing. So, like, yeah. If you're writing, you can. How do I explain what I'm thinking? That's writing. Explaining what you're thinking. So. There's a lot of aspects to writing. I guess that's the simple side of it. There's some rules that you think of as writing rules, like don't end a sentence with a preposition. That's a writing rule, but it's violated all the time. Right, but grammar is writing. And I'm not trying to be argumentative. I'm just trying to say that what you and I talk about on different levels of writing, the average person may not think of, in the same aspects. And that's what I was asking. The question really was for them to see what particular meaning that they were looking for. What exactly do they mean by breaking rules? Because I thought it was in relation to what we were talking about, is saying that you can have a bad guy win, or you can have, but it's going to be a hard sell for most people. Is it possible? Yes, it's possible. Is it going to be common? Probably not. That doesn't mean that it's not possible. And I don't know if Brett would consider that a writing rule or storytelling principles or whatever.
Well, I think there are very few rules. That's the problem.
No, I agree.
Most of them, and most of them, we generally come down to, suggestions on this tends to work better than anything else.
Yeah,
but even you and I were talking earlier about Empire Strikes Back. The heroes don't really win. You can have anyone be the protagonist. I mean, they literally have had Lucifer as the protagonist. Would I advise having Hitler be your protagonist? No, I would not. But I would never say that it can't be done. I would just say that's going to be a hard sell. And sometimes that's not the Hitler thing, but I mean, you have people who are just there are markets for just about anything, if you can find them. And it doesn't mean they pay well. And artistically, it doesn't really matter one way or the other. What's the story of an idea where an almost irredeemable bad guy is the protagonist? There's ooh. Well, I'll get something. Well, here.
Well, Hannibal Lecter's not really redeemable. He's just not as bad as the bad guy in
Yeah,
the
that's
story.
true.
I mean, how are you redeeming him?
Yeah, and then there's, I don't know if you've ever, the Jump 225 trilogy by David Lewis Edelman. It starts off with a character, Natch, who is incredibly narcissistic. He's not a nice character. And he's not a nice character for about 3 books.
Oh, neither is Thomas. What is it? Thomas Covenant.
Oh yeah, Tom's Covenant. I couldn't
'cause
read
he's like
that one.
Yeah, he's a rapist and everything else.
Yeah, I couldn't put. I know it's a famous series, but I just couldn't get behind the.
Yeah,
the
me either.
protagonist.
Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying Thomas Covenant, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not saying I approve of it at all, because I don't. Like I didn't end up finishing it as well for the same reason. Like I couldn't get behind the protagonist that's a rapist, and likely to be more of one. Like how you know, they say that he has some kind of redeeming quality. I don't know what it would be.
Yeah, I don't know. You can redeem that.
I have a hard time kind of accepting that one, but there's a lot of people that have read it, so that's an example that fits what's being asked about. Whether or not I would read it or not is a whole different story. But
Did you ever watch that TV show, The Shield?
nope.
Man, I love that show. I love that show primarily because I started noticing the camera angles actually made me nervous. And I was actually I was like, oh, this is fun. But, I mean, it's a crooked cop. I mean, he is dirty as all get out.
Have you ever seen Tin Star?
Huh?
Have you seen Tin Star?
No.
No? That's
No.
So it's this right along the lines of what you're talking about. It's Tim Roth.
Yeah.
And I'll just tell you, he starts off like in Canada, like a remote part of Canada, as a sheriff, and then you find out more and more about his character, and he's not a very great character. But by the time you find out about, the stuff that you find out about, you're already invested in him.
Well, to some extent, even shows like Dexter, you're following a serial killer. And yeah, he's channeling his inner serial killerness for good purposes. But it says quite often in the show, if he doesn't have that outlet, he'll find something else. So he's not a good character either. I mean, he's not a nice guy. So to me, Dexter was kind of the
pre-Hannibal show.
Was Hannibal supposed to be a good guy? Because I didn't.
Not in the
I didn't
TV
read
show,
it.
no.
I didn't read him as a good guy. Well, I didn't watch the TV show, so.
Well, in the book, again, he's pretty evil, but by the time you get to Hannibal, and they show the fact that what happened to his family and all this stuff, they humanize him a lot more. I don't know. That's That's a series, though, where I think Silence of the Lambs, the movie, was better than anything that was actually written. That's just me, though. Yeah, Dexter had redeemable qualities because he worked on them, but again, he's ultimately, I mean, look at him. He's a serial killer. He's not going to, and he said he's going to kill people. And he channels it, but.
Well, that's like the John Cleaver series. That's Brandon Sanderson's friend Dan Wells.
Yeah.
The first book is I Am Not a Serial Killer. And it's a kid that's basically a sociopath. He knows he's a sociopath, so he's got rules.
Well, that sounds like Dexter.
But what I think this might have been before Dexter.
Okay.
But there's a mixture from that. It's not just, he's a sociopath with rules. He's a kid sociopath. His mom's a not coroner, but mortician. And so you mix that with anime's demons.
Okay.
And that was the premise of the story, is you mix a serial killer with a murderous demon that's running around a small town.
Yeah.
They did make a movie of it, actually. Christopher Lloyd was in it.
Does there have to be a redeeming quality to make a protagonist work? I think
So what there has to be is something that the audience can sympathize with or hate. Because they need to be able to either want them to win or really want them to lose. And it has to be a strong enough emotion for them to follow them through the story. It's especially hard when it's a bad guy, because that's what you have to achieve. You have to achieve.
Yeah, because you got to make the person dislike the character enough that they're willing to not put the book down just to watch somebody get their comeuppance.
Yes. That's
And
what I was trying to say.
well, like the Bill Murray Scrooged movie. He's such a jerk. And some of it's okay because you know what's going to happen because everyone knows the story. But at the same time, you're like, I can't wait to see this guy freaking get it. And so it kind of works. But man, there's still some charm, I think, there. It is hard.
Those are character stories too, right? So it's like, it's the same thing as Scrooge. That's why they called it Scrooge. Because Scrooge was kind of irredeemable at first, and then he found himself some redemption, right?
Yeah. And there's also Faustian tales can sometimes do this. Oh God, there's one. Oh, there's a famous one, and I cannot remember the name of it, and that's going to bother the crap out of me.
Spawn.
No, The Devil and Tom Walker. That's what it is. Tom Walker is an absolute scumbag. And you are waiting and waiting to see him lose. But generally speaking, I mean, if you're going to be sitting for several hours with this character, there has to be something that's tolerable. Otherwise, you're just going to close the book and go away. So, redeemable quality, I don't know. Personality you can stand, probably. plus it's fiction, so you can good and evil be blurred? Oh, they are all the time.
Yeah, that's The Godfather.
Yeah.
The Godfather actually was written about the Italian family, not the mafia family, but the Italian family. And he used the mafia to show how extreme the family was, how important it was.
Yeah, Insanity Sucks. I think that it's I think this, the blurring. There's definitely space for that. Plenty of markets for it. There are some people that would say that if you have clear-cut good guys and bad guys, that it's flat or it's not. It's naive or immature. I think it's just a certain tone.
Oh yeah, you hear all the time the bad guy is the hero of his own story.
Yeah.
And he's a good guy in his story. I don't think that's actually true in reality. I think that's just the new trope now. You can't have a bad guy that's just pure bad because he's bad, which is not true. Like, you see it all the time. But yeah, you hear that all the time now, that bad guy's the good guy of his own story, or the hero of his own story. And usually you don't associate hero with a bad guy, so.
So Sanity Sucks says, I don't think a character can be completely evil, my opinion. Okay. But what about Sauron? He was pretty evil. I don't know of anything in Lord of the Rings where there's any reason other than he's evil.
Yeah, it's probably different now that
Now that Amazon got a hold of it.
Yeah.
I don't worry about it. See,
I know.
I don't know
saw
anything about Amazon stuff because don't care. I had the real Lord of the Rings.
I watched the first season and yeah, Sauron kind of was an innocent, sort of, because he didn't remember who he was. Well, innocent enough to fool some other creatures.
Yeah. That's kind of interesting. I would actually argue it's really hard for a character to be completely good.
Yeah.
Sanity Sucks said almost seemed like he was trying to survive rather than evil. Well, not in the original books.
Not in the movies either.
Right. I offered to let my boys watch I was like, we'll get some snack food. We'll watch all of Lord of the Rings films in one sitting. Because they were both born after Lord of the Rings came out.
Wow, it's hard
They
to
saw The
think that
Hobbit.
way.
And they said no. Like, all right. Then I said, how about we watch all the Star Wars movies? And they still said no. I'm beginning to think it was personal. Except for I really don't think they wanted to spend, however many, hours, days, whatever, just watching
I would
movies.
say I'm beginning to think they're lame.
So Sanity Sucks said, so complete evil can exist? What about complete altruism for the main character? Nah, they showed that in Friends. Complete altruism doesn't exist. There's a whole Friends episode about that. Speaking of which, there's a show on...
That's something you can't sell me on.
Well, so my wife was a huge Friends fan.
I'm sorry.
And I tagged along for that ride. I didn't mind. It was a good show. I enjoyed it. But there's a new trivia show on Max, all about Friends. And I was like, oh yeah, babe, let's watch this. We got like 3 minutes in, and I'm like, this just makes me feel old and sad. She's like, yeah.
I
turn
thought
this
you were
off.
going to say feminine.
No, just makes you feel old and sad.
I don't know about you, but I like guy programs.
I generally do too, but I enjoyed that show. Before the children were born, and we were living in Las Vegas, we got to watch the last episode on top of the Rio in the penthouse because my wife had won a contest, and then before that, like every Thursday night, we kind of had the Chi-Chi's in Muncie. They still had those, and they had half-price margaritas on Thursday nights, so we would have supper there, get our nice half-price margaritas, and then come home and watch Friends. Like that was Thursday night for a good portion of my college career, and I have no problems with that whatsoever. Yeah, if anyone's completely altruistic, I kind of fall back on Ayn Rand's thoughts that altruism is about denying the self, and complete altruism is completely not to deny the self, and if you deny the self completely, that means you don't exist.
I don't know if I agree with it being denying yourself.
Yeah, it's doing something for zero interest in whatever you have, and ultimately, there's always something you want in it.
You don't have to do something to get something out of it, and still not give up doing something for yourself as well. You don't.
I don't know about Richard Dawkins. Sandy Sex said, "What about Richard Dawkins' definition of altruism?" I don't know what it is. I know who Richard Dawkins is. I don't know about his definition for altruism. Now I have to look up Richard Dawkins' definition of altruism.
Well, this has been much more philosophical than we usually wax.
You know? Well, it says here that Dawkins asserted that pure disinterested altruism has never existed. That's pretty much
what I would argue. It's never pure, unadulterated altruism does not exist. That's just me. And again, there was a Friends episode of this, I promise. It's the one where Joey's on TV for like a telethon thing. I don't think you're going to finish that one today.
I didn't think I was. But I've got pretty much it laid out.
Yeah, you do. And the panel above, that was blank.
And I've still got
What
to do.
are cliches to be avoided? Oh my gosh. What are cliches to be avoided? I mean, the easiest answer is all of them.
So cliches are like stereotypes. They can be used to affect, but not to the main point of the story or for a surprise. Like stereotypes you can use as a shortcut. The cliche you can use as a shortcut as well, depending on the cliche. Like if you're talking about like a verbal cliche, you can use verbal cliches as there might be a character that just strictly uses cliches. Like that's, and sometimes Burn Notice, he had a character that used cliches, but he used them wrong. You're like, instead of mixing his metaphors, he mixed his cliches. But as far as what I've always heard is, if you're going to use a cliche, twist it to be yours. Like make it less cliche by giving it something deeper or something more. But there's so many that you could list. Like in science fiction and fantasy, 2 cliches is avoid starting when the character waking up, or it being at the end it was just a dream. The camera did it again. See if I can zoom in.
I'll close up my.
Yeah, it doesn't matter if the camera's not allowing me to zoom in. And it's
There.
It's just a lot.
You're zoomed in now.
Yeah, if you know something's a cliche, probably best you avoid it. But you can take 2 things that are cliche and see how they would fit together to make something new, and they wouldn't be a cliche anymore. So it's just depends on your approach. But yeah, don't base your story on a cliche, or don't have it be just a dream. Or no, hero winning is one of the common endings. Like your point is that they're trying to get their goal. The story question is, will they make their goal? Will they complete their goal? Sometimes it's yes, sometimes it's no. But generally, if it's no, they want to fail up, which means they fail, but something better happens because they fail. That's kind of a difficult road to tread, to figure out how they're going to fail and then something better happens.
Oh well. Anyway.
What?
I said anyway.
Oh, well, I think your hero can win. Your hero can win every story. David Gemmell did.
Yeah.
David Gemmell's fantasy is internationally best-selling, and pretty much all of his books are. So I don't see any reason why you couldn't have the hero win, especially if they're a good person trying to do good things against strong odds. But what you probably want to avoid doing is making them win easily. Like if they win too easy, then it just won't feel like it's worth it for the people that are reading it. You read the Legend
Did
of
you like the
Drizzt.
dancing?
So Drizzt has nothing to do with David Gemmell. That's R.A. Salvatore. And he's based in Dungeons and Dragons lore.
And there was lots of dancing. I swear. Every fight scene was a choreographed dance.
I didn't read the Legend of Drizzt. I read I like half of the first trilogy. What's the first one's Homeland, right? Homeland,
it's like-
Sojourn.
Oh, I don't remember.
Yeah, I think it's Homeland, Sojourn, and then there's another one.
Yeah,
Or-
there's something.
It-
Because
it
he
might
wasn't a
be-
main character originally. He was a side character.
Yeah, I didn't read his earlier stuff. David Gemmell
Yeah.
does have a book called Legend, but it's not Legend of Drizzt. It's actually, his name's Druss, so that's really close, which is why I was mentioning it, because I didn't know if they meant
Yeah.
the Chronicles of Druss the Legend, which was a really short book, but it was somebody capturing his wife and him going after it. The Legend, his first book, actually, his hero, Druss, dies in Legend. So, alright, so that's it for tonight. Normally,
All right.
Eli is showing up and telling me it's time, but he either fell asleep or went upstairs, or both. So, yeah, thanks, Kennedy Sucks, for hanging out. Nice to have someone to talk to for a lot of the stream.
Yep.
And AKD 6674.
From France.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
Anyway, any of you that watched the whole way, thanks for watching. If you like, subscribe, followed, any of that, thanks for liking, subscribing, and following. And that's it for tonight. And usually we stream at 8:15 on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. So, good night. God bless. Much love.
Peace out.